What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and share the video. Hit the join button and become a member. Why? Well, members get exclusive content. Hit the bell icon on my channel so that you will receive a notification every time that I drop a video, and you can go and check the video out and support me and support the content. Now, I know I have the same shirt on from my last video. Somebody mentioned that before. But that's because, fool, I dropped 2 videos that same day. Didn't you see them both drop the same day? This is the same situation right here. I just did the one video on the East Coast, and now, as promised, with no further delay, I'm going to get into the Tiny Goofy and the Porky story. Now, listen, when I was talking about doing this story, somebody in the comments said, man, talk about your own homies, man. Damn. And where did they find these people? These are my homies. I was in the cell with them. We did years together inside of the Los Angeles County Jail fighting for our lives. We were a team and we were together. I had their back and they had mine. We lived our lives together. The same gang, the same culture. Porky from 107 Hoover. His father is my OG homeboy, Big Head from 11 Deuce Hoover, who helped raise me. This is how much I know Porky. So he is my homeboy. Our relationship was very solid and very deep and heartfelt. And the same can be said for Tiny Goofy. His father is an OG from 9 Deuce Hoover. So both Porky and Goofy have lineage and pedigree and strong ties within Hoover. Before they were born, they had ties to Hoover because of who their family is. And again, I was there with them, so I can't speak on this situation. I'm not talking about something that I saw in a movie or that I read in a book. Excuse me, I'm talking about something that I was there for and most of the time involved in. Fat Chops, I might, the thumbnail in fact may read Tiny Goofy, Porky, and Fat Chops, because he was there in the county jail as well, putting in immense work. But so was many other homies. Baby Groove Mac, Little Groove Mac, there were quite a few. But this story is really about Tiny Goofy and Porky and Fat Chops, as I said. But Big Trey Stone, he was down there as well. So was Lil Frog at a certain time. And the things that they were doing were absolutely noteworthy. And I'll get to that soon. Right now, let me stay focused. So for anyone who thinks that I can't speak on this, these are people that I was involved in. These are my comrades. And I went to war with them. So how can you tell me anything? I went to war with them. Let's get into it. So Tiny Goofy, about 6'2", light brown skin, very young. When he got to the county jail, he was 19 years old, may even been 18 when he first got there. It was his first time in the county jail. He used to play ball for college that I'm not going to name right now. He played defensive end for a minute, but he was too connected to the streets. He was so involved with Hoover that he began to call himself the General, even at a young age, at 17 and 18 years old. He was known for putting in work on the street, was savvy with the tool, would chasing opposition down and beat him down if he did not have his tool on him. But if he had his tool, he was known to draw down and pop off without hesitation. And as for Porky, well, you couldn't be from Hoover. You had to be sleeping under a rock not to have heard the name Porky back in those days. He was a young man also in his early 20s, but a big dude, husky, with the heart of a lion. In fact, sometimes he would get so out of control down there in the hundreds that they used to call people, man, Porky down here tripping again. And other homies used to have to come and try to calm him down. Yes, he had people in fear, but he had a good heart and was a good homie. So for the most part, Hoovers didn't have anything to worry about. But sometimes they did, particularly if they violated and transgressed against a rule and or a protocol. He had no mercy, no matter who you were or where you were from. And in fact, he had a shootout with a homie on the street that had been caught snitching. And he popped off at him. Does that sound familiar? Pay attention. And they were known on the street, Porky and Goofy, by not just Hoovers from every faction, but the opposition as well. They all knew who these guys were on the street because of the work that they had a propensity to put in without reluctancy or hesitation. Most of the time, without mercy. They approached the opposition with ungodly intentions every time. Porky, well, he found himself locked up in a Los Angeles County jail for a litany of robberies. He had 2 or 3 crimees. I know who they are. They may not want to be named. And he was fighting these robberies in the Los Angeles County jail. Tiny Goofy had came in, and in fact, he had an attempted unaliving, an attempted hot one. He too had a crimee. And apparently, when they got to the Los Angeles County jail, they had made up their minds, Porky and Goofy, that they were going to fight every opposition that came through the Los Angeles County jail regardless. Now, bear in mind, Tiny Goofy, again, 6'2", he could have been 6'3", and at this time he was 19 years old, tattoos, and he had size, 19 to 20-inch arms, a broad chest, big shoulders. Again, he played football in college, and many people didn't know, and he did not want it exposed at the time, that he was a trained fighter. In fact, he had been fighting since he was a child and had developed and cultivated certain skills. And apparently, a cold power punch with these skills in the heart of something like I've never seen before. Well, and the angst and anxiety from fighting so much time at a young age, all of this was a combustible concoction that reared its ugly head there in the Los Angeles County jail for years, in fact. Had many people in fear, including the police. And Porky, well, he was no different. In fact, may have been even more vicious. Innately, naturally. At his apex, I've seen him do some crazy stuff that would amaze the toughest of the tough. The most hardened gangsters, I've seen them with my own 2 eyes, begin to shake in their boots when Porky was walking near. All this is truth. They may deny it, but I've seen it. I know for a fact. And Tiny Goofy and Porky, they even had physical altercations with each other on the street, but they loved one another. Tiny Goofy was like Porky's little brother. He was under the wing of Porky. And he took after him in many ways. And when they got to the Los Angeles County Jail, they were one of the few whose street cred and reputation transferred to incarceration. As I've said before, many times, most people, whatever you did on the street, however strong you were on the street, however big your reputation on the street, we don't care behind the walls. It does not transfer. Whatever work you were putting in on the street, that's good, that's fine. We all put in some sort of work on the street. Now you're here in prison, a different ball game, different politics. You don't have a gun. You have to use a different type of weapon that is more personal when you use it, because you have to get upon your opponent, right up on him, and take care of business. But with these two, well, their reputations were so strong on the street and their hearts so big that everyone knew that it wasn't an act, that even there in incarceration, their reputations would continue to grow because of their innate strength. And this held true not long after they're in the Los Angeles County Jail. The first story I'm going to bring you is going to be that of Tiny Goofy, who had somewhat of a personal war with Trouble from Riverside 1200 block. I had said 1100 block before. Thank you, commenters, for correcting me. 1200 block East Coast crib. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Trub when I bring you the story. Trub was a strong dude, but him and Tiny Goofy had 2 fights in one day. And one of those fights was epic, memorable. Everyone who was in the Los Angeles County Jail at that time, particularly the ones who witnessed that fight, well, they will never forget it. And Fat Chops, well, he too was putting in a lot of work, and he had a lot of altercations in there. People like to try Fat Chops because of his size. They thought that he was too big to move, perhaps, and that a lot of these big dudes, well, who wants to fight when you're that size? You're just going to get exhausted rapidly. And so people sometimes pick on Fat Chops. And every time he responded with perfect violence. They all found out the hard way that he too was not to be played with. But again, the first story is going to involve Tiny Goofy and the first fight that him and Trouble from East Coast Crip, 1200 block Riverside, that they had. And the fight again, it was epic and memorable. It was an indelible fight, one that everyone who witnessed will never forget, and certainly Trouble himself, if he can remember any damn thing, he'll damn sure remember that fight. I'll bring you that in part 2 of Tiny Goofy, Porky, and Fat Chops. Well, 3 crazy Hoovers. Stay free, people!